The boys' universe is officially going backward in time, and honestly, this might secretly become the darkest story in the entire franchise, because this isn't just another spin-off. This is the story of how Vought was born, how Compound V was created, how monsters were manufactured, and how Soldier Boy slowly became the broken anti-hero we know today. And the craziest part? The teaser is hiding way more than people realize. So yeah, let's break this down. The teaser opens with an old record player spinning while the screen reveals one thing: New York City, 1915. Right away, the vibe feels completely different from normal The Boys. Everything looks darker, colder, almost noir-like. And from the beginning, it becomes obvious this series is going deep into Vaught's origins. Not Homelander, not the Seven, the roots. Now, technically, this story seems to take place around the post-World War era, possibly stretching into the Korean War timeline later on. And honestly, that makes perfect sense, because if governments wanted to dominate future wars, they would need super soldiers, which means this entire project probably began as a military experiment, not to create heroes, to create weapons, and standing at the center of all of it is Soldier Boy. The teaser finally gives us our first proper look at him in this timeline, and his suit actually looks closer to an older war-era version of Captain America. Even the mask design feels more classic and militaristic. Personally, I still think his original look from The Boys looked cooler, but this version feels intentionally raw, like this is Soldier Boy before he became the legend, before the ego, before the trauma, before decades of violence twisted him. And what's really interesting is the dialogue. Soldier Boy literally talks like someone who genuinely wants to be a hero. He talks about protecting the flag, protecting the country, doing something meaningful, which is crazy when you compare it to the modern version of Soldier Boy we already know, because current Soldier Boy isn't really a hero. But he's not fully a villain either. He exists in this morally broken middle ground. He hurts people when he thinks they deserve it. He reacts violently when something feels wrong to him. So this series could finally explain how a man who wanted to save people slowly transformed into someone emotionally numb and dangerous. And honestly, that might become the best part of the entire show. But Soldier Boy isn't the only major focus here, because Stormfront, or technically Clara, looks absolutely terrifying in this teaser, and from everything they showed, it feels like she might secretly be the real villain of the story. We see her sitting with multiple early Vought heroes, almost like she's helping shape the first generation of soups. And then things get disturbing fast, because the teaser confirms Vought was testing Compound V on countless humans long before things became stable, and most of those people probably died horribly. That's where the murder mystery angle comes in. According to the premise, people connected to these experiments keep dying, and the series is supposedly going to follow a detective-style investigation uncovering what's really happening behind Vaught's walls, which honestly sounds incredible for this universe, because instead of giant superhero fights every 5 minutes, this feels more psychological, more secretive, more horror-focused, and it gets even darker when they show animal testing too. There's literally a mutated cow shown in the teaser. And if you've watched The Boys before, you already know Vought experiments on literally everything: humans, animals, anything they can inject Compound V into. We also see a mysterious black character breaking out of containment with glowing green eyes, insane strength, and bulletproof durability. And honestly, this raises a huge question. Was Compound V one really limited to only a few heroes? Probably not. The Boys universe already hinted there were many failed experiments before stable soups existed, meaning Vought likely created dozens, maybe hundreds, of unstable test subjects. Most of them probably died, and this series finally looks ready to reveal what happened to those forgotten experiments. Now, another massive detail here is Godolkin. Yes, that Godolkin. The founder connected to Gen V is apparently involved in this story too, which means this series could finally explain how the original Compound V formula evolved into the modern version. And timeline-wise, things get really interesting because one shot clearly references Soldier Boy being involved in the Korean War during the 1950s, meaning the story might jump across multiple decades instead of staying in one fixed year. And honestly, that could actually work really well, especially because some older Vought characters were never fully confirmed dead in the present timeline. Characters like Stormfront still technically leave room for theories, so the show could potentially balance both timelines, the rise of Vought in the past, while also secretly setting up the future of the company after Homelander's downfall. And speaking of Vought, the title itself is genius, Vought Rising, because in the past, this is Vought rising to power, while in the current timeline, Vought has completely collapsed. Homelander destroyed everything. The company is broken. The image is ruined. And now they basically need to rebuild from zero again. So if the show connects both timelines together, that could actually make this way bigger than people expect. Now let's talk about the relationship everyone noticed immediately. Soldier Boy and Clara. The teaser makes it very obvious there's something serious between them, but here's where things become terrifying. Clara was already connected to Frederick Vought, meaning there's a real possibility she became the first successful immortal subject through early Compound 5 experiments. And if that's true, then this show might finally explain the genetic origins behind Homelander himself. Because think about it. What if Homelander wasn't just randomly created? What if his DNA was secretly built using Soldier Boy and Stormfront's genetics? Not biologically in the normal sense, but scientifically, using their blood, their Compound V mutations, their enhanced DNA. And honestly, that would be one of the darkest reveals in the entire franchise. Homelander would literally become the product of America's two most dangerous soups, which honestly feels very possible for this universe. And if Stormfront really becomes the main manipulator behind everything, then this show could finally reveal how deep Nazi influence went inside Vought from the beginning. Because the teaser literally shows her calmly murdering someone and walking away like it means nothing. No emotion, no guilt, just pure control. And that version of Stormfront is way scarier than the loud modern one we already saw. Now obviously, not everyone is excited for this series. A lot of fans are already calling it unnecessary. Some people think Gen 5 already felt too much like filler, and now they're asking why we need another prequel when we already know where the story ends. And honestly, I get that criticism, because technically, we already know Vought survives, we know Soldier Boy survives, we know Stormfront survives for decades. So the tension isn't really about WHO lives, it's about discovering how these monsters were created in the first place. That's the real hook, and personally, I think if the writing is strong enough, this could actually become one of the most important stories in the Boys universe. Not because of action, because of lore, because this series has the chance to completely redefine everything we thought we knew about Vought, Compound V, Soldier Boy, Stormfront, and even Homelander himself. The teaser already looks cinematic, dark, violent, stylish, and honestly, way more horror-inspired than I expected. Now, the real question is whether they can actually execute this properly. Because if this turns into another filler story with no real impact, fans are going to destroy it online. But if they fully embrace the conspiracy angle, the war experimentation, the Nazi influence, the failed test subjects, and Soldier Boy's tragic transformation, then this could become something really special. Not just another spin-off, the origin story of an entire nightmare. So yeah, what do you think? Is Vought Rising actually necessary? Or does this feel like another filler project after Gen V? And more importantly, do you think Soldier Boy and Stormfront secretly created Homelander? Let me know below.